Hey, what's up guys? What's up YouTube? Hello new subscribers. Welcome existing subscribers. Thank you guys. Always got to thank you guys for making this possible. If nobody was watching my videos, I wouldn't be enjoying making them. And you wouldn't be enjoying watching them hopefully, or you wouldn't be subscribing. So thought I'd do a quick, not update, but actually a quick how-to. I don't think I do too many how-tos that get into detail about how I do some of this stuff. And I really kind of got into how to make rockscapes for the reef tank. And then I started thinking, well, you could actually also apply a lot of this stuff to different pieces of wood if you're doing freshwater and you're putting in wood or even rock actually in freshwater as well. So I thought I'd go over what I've learned, what I've picked up from people on the web, Reef Central, places like that. And a little bit of technique that I'm sure I learned somewhere from somebody, I didn't just imagine it, around how to kind of blend it in using the epoxy and things like that. A lot of people say don't worry about the details, just go for the big brush strokes, but you know what? I tend to notice the details because I did it where nobody else does, and I'm sure you'll agree with me. They stand out. So I'm going to show you, this is what I'm planning for my reef tank. I'm planning on putting this in today, and before I do, I've got a couple of things that I need to epoxy up. Now, I've already epoxied one set of rocks, and if you look right here, you'll see that this rock right here that juts out like that, that's actually two pieces of rock. So we're going to take a look at that real quick. We're going to talk about what rocks you should epoxy and which rocks you probably shouldn't, to make it easy to kind of put things in and change things around as the tank evolves, and as you evolve in your choices. And then we'll go over the technique that I use, the equipment that I use, and what approach I take to epoxying my rocks. So a lot of people will probably do it a little bit differently, so you might pick up some pointers from somebody else after this, but hopefully this will get you started and give you some good ideas. So let's take a look. So here we are taking a look at that one rock that I told you I've already epoxied. Now the stuff I'm using is JB Weld's Water Weld, which is specifically formulated for wet conditions, underwater repair and seal. I believe it will also set underwater, but I'm doing everything dry because, well, I don't want any chemicals floating around in my water, obviously, even if they will dissipate. I don't believe it. So better safe than sorry. But anyway, so we're looking at the rock that I epoxied last night, and the epoxy is like a putty, which is perfect to work with. I wouldn't recommend those runny kind of epoxies, the watery kind of epoxies. Get a putty for sure, unless you specifically think you need a wet epoxy for some reason. But if we take a look at these two rocks, hopefully you won't really notice exactly where I blended it in, or maybe it's just, you know, just barely obvious at best. That's what I was shooting for. But let's take a closer look. We're going to zoom in here, and I'm going to zoom in right on the area that I epoxied and show you guys what I did and where I did it. Now, looking at this rock, there's actually two spots that I epoxied. The first spot is actually right here. You can probably just barely make it out as I'm putting my finger around it. And then the second spot is right here, okay? And what I did, and what I'm going to show you how I did it, hopefully you'll be saying, wow, that actually looks really good. It's really hard to see. It's what I was shooting for. And what I did was I took a very simple tool, this rock right here, small little rock in my hand, and when I applied the epoxy, I waited a couple of minutes for it to start firming up, and then I just went around the epoxy and just dabbed with my tool to put some impressions in the epoxy based off of the stone. And what that did, especially since it's a white epoxy on white stone, it doesn't stand out as much, but it actually gave some texture to the epoxy, and it helped it blend in a lot better. Now, I know eventually a lot of this is going to get covered up with coral and algae and things like that, but you know, it took about 5 minutes to do. It looks a lot better, and in the year to 2 years, it's probably going to take me to stock this with corals and watch them grow, and you know, years after that, it'll be a while. That spot might still be visible. Coral and algae takes a while to grow sometimes, and it grows where it wants, not where I want it to grow. So I figured I might as well just make it look nice, even if it's only going to be for 6 months to a year that I'm never going to really see it or notice it. So it was worth the 5 minutes in my book. The pieces that I'm gonna focus on are the pieces that I have to glue for this, which is a small piece that kind of helps stabilize the base. Of course, Mother Nature doesn't make flat bases, so if I don't have something underneath there, this rock's just gonna wobble. This is the piece that I'm actually gonna epoxy underneath it, just to kind of make it a stable base for when I put it down. nice and solid, if I get it in the right spot. And we'll epoxy that. And then also on this larger piece here, I've got this piece right here holding up the larger tier of plateaus. That piece right there I'm going to epoxy in too. Now these two pieces up here are not epoxy. These are large pieces, and if I epoxied them, they're actually really stable, okay? But if I epoxied them to this piece, the three pieces together would be just a ridiculous amount of weight. It'd be really awkward to try to get into the tank, and I'd be screwed because if I ever wanted to change it, I wouldn't be able to, or I'd have to break up the rock to get some rock out of it. So they're stable. There's no reason to really epoxy it. Gives me a little bit more flexibility, but if I ever wanted to hang something off of it, I could probably epoxy it if I wanted to, if I wanted to put a stone on top or something. So basically everything's going to be independent. We've got that rock there, which I can put in and take out. We've got this bottom piece right here, which is a separate rock. This large plateau here, shelf. This shelf right here. That small piece will be epoxied to that larger piece, no big deal. And then of course these two pieces right here. All right, so let's take a look at how we do this. I've got the water weld, and obviously I've already used it to combine those two pieces. What will come in is a small plastic wrapped two-part epoxy, if you can see that. There's actually two parts, one in the center, one on the outside. You knead it together like dough. It's got a 25-minute work time, and then after that it cures in about an hour. I'm not wearing any gloves right now. I ran out of gloves, but if you've got gloves, wear gloves, because this stuff stinks, and the stink stays on your hands for a couple of hours while it's curing. So it does wash off pretty easily with soap and water if you get it early enough, but it really does kind of, the smell kind of lingers. So by all means, I'm not going to enjoy this, but you know, hey, what the hell. All right, so I'm going to cut off enough. Now remember, I'm going to do this piece over here that's holding up this rock, and then I've got the other piece off to the side here that I'm going to do. So I'm going to mix enough that I can get both pieces done at the same time. You tend to use quite a bit, so overestimate if you're not sure. Better to use a little more than run out and have to get a little less. So get yourself a knife or a razor blade, probably something disposable, so that if you get this stuff on it, you don't have to worry about cleaning it. You can just throw it out. It's wrapped in plastic, so just peel back the plastic and go ahead and just start kneading it together. And the idea here is you want to knead it for probably a good 5 minutes or so to really get those two parts well incorporated, because without that you're going to get spotty, soft areas along with hard areas, and you don't want that. So constantly fold it in on itself, and you'll sort of see the off-white versus pure white color of the two parts. You get it mixing nice. It'll start getting really soft in the beginning. That's actually a really good sign that you're mixing it really well. And just keep working that back and forth, all right? And then when you're all done, we're gonna apply it to the rock. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna divvy this up into pieces that I can work with. And I don't need much to glue that small piece. So I'm gonna go with a piece about the size of a nut, right? Like a chickpea or something. I don't know, take your pick. Marble, about the size of a marble. All right, we're gonna use that for that piece. And then I'm gonna divvy this larger piece up into 2 equal halves that I'm gonna use for the other piece. Now, remember I said you got a 25-minute work time, so you do have plenty of time to put this stuff together. So I'm just gonna put these two pieces aside, off to the side, and we'll focus on that piece, and then we'll come around and take a look at the other piece, which will be a lot easier to texture, and I'll show you how to texture on that. So let's take a look now. We'll move this over just a hair so we can see that. All right, so let's talk about this. So I've got a piece about this size. It's a pretty generous piece, and what I want to do is I basically want to get at the rock. I know where I'm going to put it. Let's get a piece of this. This is probably the simplest application you're ever going to get. Get it on there. Now, I will tell you that with this coral rock, sometimes it's difficult to get it to stick to the rock initially, especially when the epoxy is still soft. Now, because this is going underneath, I'm not going to texture it really. you're really not going to see it. It's going to be buried in the sand. But what I do want to do is I do just kind of want to get it in there so it makes good contact with the rock as much as I can. Push it in. I can feel it kind of squeezing out. Let me try and get it in there a little bit. You know, use your fingers, use a tool if you can. But make sure it's in there, make sure it's steady, and then I'm just going to leave that. That's done, right? In about an hour, that's going to be really hard, and all that is just a stable piece. So now let's go to the other piece, and since that's going to be more exposed, you're going to see that. I'm going to go ahead and texture that. And this one's not as stable, so I'm going to shove this rock temporarily underneath there, just to kind of hold things up while I pull this rock out. This rock will actually fit right there, and I know that I'm going to put epoxy all throughout this area right here. If you can see it, all in that crevice. So what I'm going to do is take this out, get my epoxy, start lining it up, and what I want to do is I want to press it into the rock as much as I can. Remember, this stuff is still soft, so it's going to feel sticky and naturally want to pull away, but get it in there as much as you can, primarily in the contact areas, and spread it out just a little bit beyond that would be fine, because we're going to end up pushing it back into the crevice once we get it attached. So it's that easy, right? Just apply it like that. It's like Play-Doh, guys. It's real simple. Everybody had Play-Doh, right? And we're just going to push it right back in. Make sure it's got good contact, right? And now you see I've got a lot of areas that are out, and some areas that I went over. That's okay. That's where it's a good thing that it doesn't totally stick as well as you want it to initially. And we're going to just push it in with our fingers. See that? We're going to push it in like that and get a nice, good, tight seal. A lot of surface area making contact with the epoxy and the rock, all right? And that's going to be our main joint. Now, to your point, that really looks like crap to me. And I don't care what anybody says. If I'm showing you guys videos of my fish tank, I really don't want you guys to see that and go, oh, he did a crappy job as an epoxy. So you're going to get a rock, preferably something like this, in a tight spot. You know, maybe we could use, and I keep my rock chips, you know, just for this case, you know, a smaller one like this. And we're going to go in, and we're just going to pelt this, right? And keep in mind, guys, if you do this too early, it might feel a little soft, and it might feel like it's not taking or it's pulling away. Wait a couple of minutes. This has obviously been sitting for a little while since we were doing the other one. But wait a couple of minutes, maybe 5-10 minutes tops, no more since the time you mixed it. And it'll start to firm up and get stickier. So, so if you're finding that you're having problems with that, definitely just wait a little bit. A little patience is a virtue, right? And then just start dabbing it in. Nothing gentle. I mean, nice and gentle. We don't need to kill it, right? It's already pressed in good. We just want to give it a little bit of texture, a little embossing, right? And as you can see, that's kind of coming out really nice, right? Get the rock in there, give it a nice texture. And that's going to dry white, so it's still going to be a little noticeable, but at least it'll have some texture to it. The algae will be able to grow into it. And then eventually the coralline will take hold in there. It's not going to be a slick surface or anything like that. And so just get that as much as you can. Now for the tighter spots, sometimes you can come in with a thinner piece, or maybe with your finger. But overall, that's the general idea. We're going to let that one sit for about an hour. And once that's done, you can put a little crevice in it too, just to make it thinner. Once that's done, this is really going to hold really well. And I think it looks great. So hopefully you guys learned something. If you hadn't learned something, leave a comment. If I need to learn something, definitely tell me. But I like this technique. I like the way it comes out. I really like this JB water weld. I was a little nervous with it at first. It didn't look like it was going to hold against this rock, but it holds like a champ. So enjoy the video. I hope you guys found it informative. Like it. I'll keep making how to do it or DIY videos as they come along if you guys like this. And hope you enjoy it. Take care. Bye, guys.